You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series and syndicating for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. This conversation features myself, of course, and Nick Holmes from the bands Paradise Lost and Bloodbath. Now, the reason for the conversation is to promote the brand new album from Bloodbath titled The Arrow of Satan is Drawn. It's out there in the market already, so I definitely recommend you wrap your ears around that one. In the meantime, let's have a listen to what Nick has to say. Here we go.
Andrew, yeah.
Hey, mate, yes, it is. Yes. How's things been for you?
All right, mate. Yeah, not bad. How are you? Good?
Mate, plugging away. Yeah, just I'm nearer your vintage and age to maybe some of the other people you're used to talking to, but I'm back at uni, mate. So I'm around all the bloody. I'm around all the young ones these days, and I'm being reminded, not that they're doing it, that I am my age, because I tried to swim 12 laps of a 50-metre pool today. Holy shit!
All right.
After a 3-day, I wouldn't say a binge, but you're getting old, and you'll probably relate to this, when the person you drink the most with is your own mother.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, I needed 3 days afterwards. After about a drinking session, I got off 3 clear days where I have nothing to do, so I just kind of mope about the house in a dressing gown.
Well, you got to do it. You got to have your downtime, haven't you? But look, I'll tell you something. This album here of yours with Bloodbath, I think it's your second album with these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's fantastic. So the Arrow of Satan is Drawn. Now, I'm very familiar with your other band, of course, Paradise Lost, and I had a really good chat to Greg last year ahead of the Australian tour. But I was only familiar with Bloodbath through Dan Swano, whose career I followed a little bit in the early days. But I hadn't heard much from the band. I knew you'd had releases out there, but until Chris sent this one through. So between this one and the new albums from Terrorizer and Monstrosity, it's so great to hear high quality, no bullshit extreme metal performed by musicians who have decades of experience and really know what to do. So my question for you, mate, is did you think it was going to be as strong an album as it sounds when you were actually recording it?
First, I'm glad you like it. Actually, that's a good start. Good start. Yeah, I mean, it's. I know that the guys are very passionate about it. I mean, they still listen to death metal regularly in their downtime. And if we do any traveling in the van or the bus, it's always on all the time. And they're still massive fans of it, so it's always there. So I didn't think for a minute there'd be anything that would be kind of lackluster or substandard at all when the songs were coming through.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite. I mean, everyone sort of. Jonas writes his own songs. Anders writes his own songs, and Jokke, the new guitar player, he wrote his own tracks as well. So I contributed to sort of mainly Anders' songs. I wrote some lyrics for it, but I think the fact everyone writes their own songs from start to finish is it's a quicker way of writing, and there's not too much kind of saying, oh well, this should be this, that should be that, I should do this. Or it's quite a natural. Seemed quite a good flow in the songwriting from my point of view. There was no kind of a very sort of natural thing, and the fact that everyone's done it for so long as well, I think, there's no egos or anything like that at all. It's just about making the album as good as it can be, and yeah, I mean, it was quite a smooth thing, really,
Do you think? Here's a good question for you. Okay, so I was talking to John Mako from Fifth Angel, the reactivated band from Seattle. They've got a cracking new album out, actually, but it's the old dilemma of how do you plan on marketing an album such as The Arrow of Satan is Drawn? How do you cut through all of the noise on social media? Because there's a question that I asked John about the Fifth Angel album, and he acknowledged basically that, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to really cut through everything, and how do you pick an audience? So how do you guys pick an audience here, or do you think an audience is drawn to you because of the vast experience and all the other bands that the band's members in Bloodbath are in?
I think there's that element, perhaps with people that are of a certain age. I think getting in younger people, that's a different thing altogether. I mean, it's a lot of the time you're getting parents are taking their kids, and the kids are getting it through their parents. Which does happen all the time, especially like bands like Maiden, for example. Probably most of the younger crowd is just older people that are taking their kids that got into listening to it through their parents. Pretty much like football, I guess. If you got parents into football, there's a good chance you're going to be into it as well. So I mean, yeah, it's with younger people. I don't know. That's the. I mean, I've got kind of I've got kind of grown up kids now, and I don't know what makes them tick at all musically. It's the stuff they listen to me is just garbage, absolute rubbish, nonsense. But I mean, at the same time, there's kind of droves that listen to the same stuff, and it's like, well, I just don't get it. I mean, it's not like you're kind of listening to some rock or metal that you don't get. It's just like an alien form to me. I just, what is this stuff? It's. I mean, you kind of turn into your typical kind of dad sort of comments, but
you're on the money.
I mean, like I said. As far as our age, I do think there is perhaps there's a certain element of nostalgia. I mean, everything always goes on in a circle as well. Because I mean, and I think when you get middle aged, from my experience, you tend to look back to your best times in your life, and it probably is from being like 14 to 21. That's probably one of the best times in your life. I think when
you had energy.
And you just you kind of. I mean, especially in my case, that death metal was in its infancy. It was a new force to be reckoned with, and thrash was as well. Metallica just started out, and it was heavy metal completely turned around. It was a really exciting time, and I was such a great. It was so good to be part of that, and I think that's never going to leave you. So when you kind of, I don't know, 25 years later, you look back and think, wow, that was such a good time. And it kind of, the nostalgia comes back, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I understand your point, and You've alluded to the fact that I've already mentioned, but you framed it quite well. You've been doing this a bloody long time. So how have you survived? Because you're playing fairly uncompromising music at the end of the day. How have you managed to survive all of the bullshit? I'm not saying for a moment that the labels you're with are trying to rip you off or what have you, but you know what I'm saying. The pitfalls are out there. So how did you avoid all of that and go on to craft a 35-year career or thereabouts?
Yeah, I think it's... I mean, we've been. I mean, I saw interviews like old interviews with Lemmy. I mean, he just says there's so much luck involved, and he's totally true. It's the amount of luck involved is phenomenal. I mean, you can be the greatest band in the world. I mean, you've also got good people around you as well. I mean, it's important if you can get good management. I mean, that's super important thing. There's so many, like you say, pitfalls, and we've been very lucky with record labels. We haven't. Everyone we've sort of worked with along the way we haven't really come across any sharks, so to speak. And we've been lucky enough to have very good management all the way through his career, and just general good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, it's and I'm also. I mean, you've got to have a passion for it. I mean, you can't do anything by halves either. I don't think. That's also. I do think a lot of people they think, well, because they're a very talented guitar player, they just expect to get famous or expect to get people like coming to the gigs, and it doesn't always work like that. It's not really the case at all. I know some fantastic singers who just can't seem to do anything. It's just it's like I said, it's the big look, I think.
Actually, I do follow you on Twitter, and I find a lot of your comments hilarious, actually. And that one recently that you put up about that band Threaten. What about that? Yeah. That's the weirdest thing that I've read in ages with regards to the music industry. This bloke did like a "Build It and They Shall Come" thing, like Field of Dreams or something.
He did. There was a kind of used news piece on it which I read, and the guy went really into depth about how he's kind of paid for. I mean, I'm guessing this guy's from a wealthy background, and I mean, they were saying it probably cost him like £30,000 just to do the UK tour, and I mean, how he's kind of done it is it's like you can make a movie from it. It's almost like Catch Me If You Can sort of thing. Yeah. I always found it's quite. I mean, and actually, no disrespect to the guy, but it's very strange how he did it all, and he was kind of hanging up his bed sheets to make it look like he was backstage. And but if you kind of chase up the backstory, I mean, it's quite fascinating, really. And to be honest, he's actually quite a good musician. I mean, it's not my cup of tea at all. When I heard it, I was like, oh God, no. But he can play, he's strange. It kind of reminded me of the Great Kat. I don't know if you remember her. I mean, years ago.
I do. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There was so much hype. She suddenly got front covers, and she came out of nowhere saying Beethoven, speed metal, all that. It sort of reminded me of that. The kind of massive hype, and then it just kind of vanished, like a really expensive firework.
yeah, it was just such a. I must have read similar articles, if not the same article that you read too, and I thought he sounds like an industrious young fella. All he needed to do really was just do the grind that every band has to do, and probably within a year or two he would have been a success. He didn't need to bypass or try to cheat the system and rip off venues.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess the venue, if they cover what they need for the night, then obviously they're not going to kind of break even or anything. No. it's like you say, you're just going to kind of piss people off. You can't really do that. But the fact I'm surprised he's the first person to do it. Really, I mean, but I liked how he kind of faked all the YouTube comments and all that.
I know, and I know what you're talking about with the bed sheets up behind him and having an imaginary person off screen asking him questions. I haven't, I've only seen the still of the video, but was there someone actually asking him questions, or was he just doing that cut to answer of question without actually having the question asked?
I don't know. Yeah, this is the thing. I don't know. I mean, my friend sent me the link, and I must have spent like half a day just checking this guy out. I was kind of fascinated. I mean, the thing is, with Twitter, I don't have an opinion either way. I just like mention it, and that's it. See what everyone else says about it, But yeah, no, it's fascinating. No, it's good gossip.
Yeah, I look at it. Made our world turn for a day or two until the next one comes along. You know what Twitterverse is like. Yeah. So the Australian tour last year, how was that? I know when I talked to Greg, he was looking forward to it. But did it go well for you guys?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I think Melbourne and Sydney in particular were cracking gigs. Yeah, really. We love coming to Australia. It's great. I mean, it's always a pleasure to go there. But it is expensive to get there. But to tour there is very expensive for us for European bands to get over there. But I mean, when we are there, it's great. It's very kind of laid back. Everything. And the guys who were looking after us over there were great as well. They were great guys. I mean, rolling the next one, hopefully.
Yeah, cool. Actually,
hopefully we can get down. Yeah, I would say hopefully we can get down with Bloodbath. That would be fantastic.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions actually. Yeah, because did I read it correct that you are pulling double duty on some shows coming up in December, so you got Paradise Lost and Bloodbath on the same bill, and you're obviously performing in both?
Yeah, that'll be on. That's probably the 70,000 tons of metal actually.
Might have been, yeah.
Yeah, we did that a few years ago actually. So it's kind of alternate nights. So it's kind of 4 nights I just played with each band.
Yep.
I mean, I played on the same bill on the same night. I did that at the Damnation Festival, which I wouldn't want to repeat too often, to be honest. It's a bit of a It's a bit of a killer.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And it's for contrasting styles too, it needs to be said. I mean, the attitude, I imagine, and the psyche you need to adopt before you go on stage is vastly different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's as long as with Bloodbath, it's just like literally death metal rapping. You're kind of rapping from the minute you get on to the minute you get off. You don't really have time to feel about how tired you are. There's no space. You just it's just instantly bang, 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 bang. Obviously, Pale's a lot different, but yeah, it was. I slept well that night. That's for sure.
I better do a time check. Is somebody calling you at 1:45, or have we got another 5 minutes or so?
I've got 12 o'clock next one.
Okay, wonderful.
It's 12. We're all right.
All right, sweet, no worries. Well, you've done a lot. Okay, so we've already talked about the Paradise Lost, Bloodbath, and the length of time you've been in the industry. But what's the most memorable tour or show that you've performed? Is there any one that really stands out as being unique?
Probably I tend to say it a lot, but it was when we played the Dynamo Festival. I think it was 1995 with Paradise Lost. I mean, it was the days when they didn't really think about how many people were watching. The capacity. There was no kind of health and safety sort of thing. So there was like 150,000, or maybe less than that, but it was definitely over 120, I think, watching. And I think we headlined. There was Type O Negative as well, which was kind of around the time they were really they were really hitting things. So it was. But I remember we had to set the fireworks off at the end of the gig. And everyone was watching, and I was very honoured to be asked to kind of press down the plunger, to set off the like in a Roadrunner cartoon, set off the thing. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I pressed it down and nothing worked.
They thought you'd broken it.
Yeah, honestly, it was, oh my God. And I remember just walking backwards, trying to sink into the kind of dry ice, like, oh no. And then once I walked off stage, they went off then. So it was like, all right, it was the delayed reaction. But I always remember thinking, I mean, now, because I was quite young when that happened, so I thought, oh, fuck it. I forgot about it like pretty quickly. But if it was now, I don't think I'd dare even go out of the house again, because there would be YouTube clips of it. I'd never live down. Oh, it'd be a nightmare, yeah.
How do you cope with that? Fans in, what's his name, Maynard from Tool or A Perfect Circle, when he was in one of the two bands performing, he famously banned people using mobile phones and recording things at the gigs. Is that something you care about, or are you just do whatever you think you need?
You just, I just think it makes you got to up your game. You got to be as good as you can. You can't really, you can't. It just makes you kind of constantly. You're on stage all the time. Even when you're going to the hotel or you're getting out, coming out of the airport, or if there's people around, and you don't have to. There doesn't have to be 30 people there. There could be one person there. As long as if he's filming you, you're on the internet.
Yeah.
So I think when I see guys coming through airports, they're just on long flights, and there's guys hassling them and filming, and they're kind of pissed off. But I understand how they feel, but at the same time, you just got to remember that you're going to be on the internet the day after, or even the hour after. It's I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like I said, you just feel like you're on stage all the time. I mean, I know Maynard. They played this Spanish festival. B Prog, my friend, actually, with Perfect Circle.
Okay.
And there's no clips of that gig anywhere because he wouldn't let people film it. But in a way, I quite like that because he's kind of kept the mystery. Because now I would have loved to have seen that gig, but I didn't see it and I can't see it. So it's like, oh well, maybe next time. Do you know what I mean? It makes you kind of want to go and see them now.
Well, you remember what the old days were like, don't you? Some gigs became law. Like I remember when Nirvana played here on the Gold Coast at Fisherman's Wharf, and it seemed like 100,000 people watched that gig, even though the venue only had a capacity of 800 people or what have you. And there's nobody around to record them back then. Early Faith No More shows, whatever it might be, but their legend has such that it's just spread, and people talk about these things with such great reverence. I feel like these days there's none of that sort of talking up shows that happen because just about everybody somewhere's recorded it. So
totally, yeah. It's I see that all the time. These people expect to see it on YouTube as well. Like it's almost like it's it's like, well, where's your show? It's it's. Yeah, and then they say, "Oh, well, you did the same set list." It's like, well, it's you. 20 years ago, Slayer did the same set list, but you didn't know because it was a different town and it wasn't on the. Well, I say 20 years, 30 years. Let's get real now.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Slayer. I think they came to the Marquee in London on the Hell Awaits tour. They did. I think the only UK show they did was. It was Hell Awaits' album, and they played in the Marquee. And I was a little bit young actually, so I couldn't get. My neighbour went, and I was so jealous that he saw that. And even now, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd seen that.
Oh, I bet.
So, like you said. Sorry, go on.
No, you're right. Sorry, mate. I don't mean to interrupt you.
I'm just saying, like shows, kind of, like you said, they sort of become legendary, like you said. It's like
There's that Nirvana show sticks in memory because I was too young to go myself, but I don't think I would have wanted to go, to be honest with you. I was always into bands like Morbid Angel and Paradise Lost, so Nirvana are a bit light on the spectrum. But look, it's one of those things. But there is one band that I really did want to see in their incarnation that can no longer happen, and that's Judas Priest with KK Downing in them.
Right.
Yeah, I, as a guitarist, I've always really admired his rhythmic technique and the like. But I read his book as well. Don't know whether you've had a chance to peruse.
I haven't read it yet. No, a friend of mine works really close with Judas Priest. I mean, I've had a few friends work with Priest actually through the years. But yeah, no, I mean, I mean, I think we play with them. Well, we didn't. No, we were in the same hotel as them actually. We didn't actually play with them, but we just happened to bump into them in a hotel. And they're such guys. They're really down to earth, really nice people.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, KK's almost 70, and you feel for him a bit through. I won't reveal anything to you about what's in the book to save you so you can read it for yourself. But yeah, there's a lot in there that I sort of think, Jesus, he had to put up with some real shit. And it's stuff that you'd put up with over. You'd think you understand why he put up with it. You're thinking that tomorrow's going to be a new day and it'll bring a new attitude, but it just never did. And you understand why he left the band. But I would have loved to have seen them with him in it. Actually, it's a bit of a. What do you think of that trend these days, where? Like with Priest, where you've got, I know the two that they've got in there are extremely capable. What's the name of the producer that's in there? Sorry, from Hell, the band.
Andy Sneap. Andy Sneap.
How could I forget his name? Yeah. Do you reckon they'll do another album?
I reckon, yeah. I mean, I've never actually been into Priest. I mean, it's funny. I've got so many friends that are into Priest, but for some reason it always passes me by. I mean, I know the songs. I know the hit songs. And I did actually quite like the Painkiller album.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
But I was never into them as a kid, and I never really carried on, So, but I mean, obviously, I know a lot of the songs and all the hits that they've had in the, But I mean, they're as big as they ever were, They're always massive in the States as well, and I mean, you don't have to. You can look at recent concerts, and they're just packing out places. They're still really a big demand for them. I'd be surprised if they didn't do another album. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I agree. And you also got Dio. I think it wasn't announced that there's. I don't want to quote the number, but I will quote it anyway. It's 20 or 50 dates or something like that with the hologram going around.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know because I don't know. I've got mixed. I mean, my friend went and he says, "Oh, it's really good," and he was glad he went to see it. And I think, well, in that case, then it's a victory, in that regard. But at the same time, it's like, well, someone's making some money out of that somewhere, and it's not, I don't know. I've got mixed feelings on it, but
Yeah, well, I'm different. Look, I don't have any. I wouldn't influence anybody's opinion either way. If someone wants to go and see it, so be it. But I'm the sort of guy that didn't go and see Black Sabbath on their last tour because they didn't have Bill Ward, because they didn't feel it was the real thing.
right,
And,
yeah,
God, having a hologram up on stage, I'd tune out. I think I'd probably get the sense that it's not for me really. And I don't think who are the musicians that they're using these days. I don't even think they were on the first couple of albums, were they? From Last in Line.
yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a bit fake, isn't it? It's all a bit phony. It's like I said, someone's pocketing something from that. It's just a bit, yes. But like I said, my mate went and he's a massive Dio fan and he loved it. So I guess, well, in that respect, I guess, but it's like you say, it's not really for me. I won't be lining up to go and see it, I don't think. But
no. Well, mate, I better let you go to the next one, get a cup of tea or so before the next one comes along. But it's been really great to chat to you. I'll keep on following you on Twitter, and fingers crossed that you guys get down here sometime soon with Bloodbath.
Yeah, cool, mate. I thought you were going to say fingers crossed you might say something sensible on Twitter.
Mate, everything you say is sensible. Please, actually, don't say anything sensible on Twitter because you're giving me too much joy, mate. Those comments. You've got a sharp wit, mate. I always love a sharp wit, and I enjoy seeing yours. So, yeah.
Cheers, bud.
No worries, mate.
All right.
Gotcha.
All right, nice speaking to you, man. All the best.
No worries, mate. Bye.
Cheers, buddy. See you. Bye. Bye.
You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series and syndicating for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that conversation featured Nick Holmes from the Outfits, Paradise Lost, and Bloodbath. Thank you so much for listening.